Hey, hey, hey. Good evening, everyone. My name is Itonya. I go by Real Estate by Itonya. Welcome to Life, Leases, and Law. And tonight we're going to be talking about life, leases, and law. I got quite a few things coming up that I wanted to talk about. Last week I was talking about the new rent increase that went into effect August 1st. So tonight we're going to be talking about what happens after you get a rent increase and when you get a rent increase and things like that. But before I start talking about that, I just want to let you guys know some life stuff that's happening this Saturday, August 8th. I am having my annual back to school giveaway. Okay, someone's asking me to co-host. I'm having my annual back to school giveaway. This is our 19th back to school giveaway. And I've been busy working. I didn't really get to plan this. So I'm a little embarrassed because I just put out notices this week, seeking volunteers, letting people know about the event. And I have this chat group of about 182 families, and that corresponds to probably about 200 to 300 people, including children. So I put it out to them, and then we also, every time we have an event over the last 18 years, we turned 18. So my nonprofit, Our Youth Matter, we turned 18 in May. And the first year that we was in existence in May, that August, we had our first backpack giveaway. So I have a backpack giveaway on Saturday. And I call it just a pop-up because normally we have the food and the music and the DJ and crafts and games and workshop. This one is just going to be a pop-up. We're not stuffing the backpacks. We got a donation from We Could Help with school supplies. They donated some backpacks. I had a few backpacks from last year, purchased a few backpacks. So we just got to come together. We got to meet in the park, have a pop-up, have people come. I normally do 500 backpacks. This year I'm thinking maybe 200. Let's say 200 to 300 backpacks. And we just got to have a good time. But it's just more of a pop-up. Come get a backpack, some school supplies. We got a few goodie bags left over from our birthday that we had in May. And maybe some water and juice. And that's kind of it. We normally do a lot more. But just for time constraints, we just got to have a little pop-up. We still want it to be a blessing to our community and to the kids. Most of the kids out here in Alameda County, or specifically Oakland, they start school on Monday. They'll get their backpack on Saturday, and our event is later in the day, like 4 to 5:30. So they have time to go to the other giveaways that's happening that day and just come on through to the park and come get you school supplies and back up. I'm going to post something on my page. I just realized that I didn't post the backpack giveaway on this page, but I'm going to do that. But it is August 8th at Carter Gilmore Park. If you're familiar with Oakland, I used to be Greenman Field back in the day, 1324 66th Avenue, East Oakland, down the street from Acts Full Gospel. So, yeah, that's what we got to do. And thank you, if any of my volunteers, thank you for helping your girl out. And just spread the word, because I would prefer not to leave with any school supplies. I prefer to give them all out. And so that is the life portion, what's happening. I've really been just trying to work on that to make this happen this Saturday. And we may donate if we do have any extra backpacks, I have an organization or two in mind to donate those to. So if you in East Oakland in California in the Bay Area, come on through. Come on through. It should be a nice time. So leases. I meant to write this down because I keep forgetting. So I have a tenant placement. So I help owners find tenants for their vacancy. So I have about eight units right now available. Right now, so I'm a little tongue-tied. I have 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. That's what I have this one. So every month I put a personal goal on myself. So the beginning of July, I had a goal to rent out all 8 of the units. No, 6. I had 6 units. I had a goal to get all 6 of those units rented. And we didn't quite make it. Out the 6, I have 2 left. I've got a couple of applications on one, but the owner is choosing not to go with the ones who's applying for different reasons. Mostly credit, and sometimes it's just hard to verify people, their jobs and things like that. So, but I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. Yeah, look at that, 6 more. So of course, my goal in August is to have all 6 of those rented by September. So so far, I got 1 of the 6 kind of rented. They said they're going to commit. They just haven't did the steps. But that's 1 gone. So that means I'm going to have 5 more. So I have a 2-bedroom in East Oakland. I have a 3-bedroom in East Oakland. I have a 2-bedroom off of Sunkiss in the hills, like above Keller. All my units, I do have a unit coming in Berkeley, but mostly all my units is in Oakland. I have 1 on the border of North Oakland and Emeryville. That's a 2-bedroom, a townhouse, so it's up and down. And then I have a 2-bedroom in Berkeley that's coming on. I think I have 7 because I didn't count her before. Oh, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom that's coming in Oakland by the Eastmont Mall. So if you're looking for a place to stay, send me a DM. And if you know someone, especially if you know someone with a housing choice voucher, because I do have a few units that, you can't deny housing choice vouchers, but I do have a few units that's housing choice or Section 8 friendly. They're open to everyone, but specifically for them. And I know, I'm about to go on a small little tangent because, with Section 8, they had to come up with a law because they were having a hard time finding a place because the owners was like, no, we don't accept Section 8. So in California, at least, you can't deny them. So you can't deny someone with a housing choice voucher. That's what it's called now instead of Section 8. So if they have a voucher, you can't deny them when they're looking for a unit. Now, there's some things, some ways that's unreasonable, like if they're in Piedmont or Rockridge or Montclair, those areas tend to cost a lot more where they're not really in a voucher limit. So you can't come with a $2,000 voucher and expect to get $8,000 home. We got to be realistic. But mostly everything that I have right now is in the voucher limits. So if you know someone with a Section 8 voucher, they're having a hard time finding a place, have them send me a DM because I also have associates too. And, while I'm trying to get mine rented, I'm helping my associates get theirs rented as well. So, yes, keep me in mind. Bay Area Rental Match. I have an Instagram page. I need to post on there, but it's Bay Area Rental Match. I'm going to update that page tonight. I'm going to update my page with all the rentals that I have so people will know. because no one gonna find me if they hidden, right? But I'm advertising on all the social media outlets, all the I'm not social media, but all the outlets. So I'm getting hits, but yeah, I got that goal. I have what? We doing good. 3 weeks to get 6 units rented. I got faith in me. I could do it. I could do it, y'all. I could do it. I could do it with y'all help. So one thing I want to say, I did a series on this already, but I did a series, did you pay your rent? And I wanted to bring that up because today is the 6th. Most of the places, most of the time in California, at least, rent is due on the 1st. We give you to the 5th to pay. Did you get that rent paid by the 5th? If you didn't get the rent paid, some of you might have gotten a 3-day notice today. And you're kind of in luck because you're going to get a little bit more time, because if you got your, I'm looking at my calendar, if you got your rent increase today, they don't usually count the day that you get it. So it counts starting tomorrow, the 7th, which is Friday. However, they don't count weekends and they don't count holidays. So you're getting 2 extra days to get that rent in. So if you didn't pay your rent, they gave you a 3-day notice today. You have until, let's see, 1, 2, 3. You have until the 11th to get it paid. And on the 12th, August 12th, they may send you up to start the eviction process, which is called an unlawful detainer. But make sure you get that rent in. And it's usually the full amount. Some people may take a partial payment, but if they take a partial payment, they have to start the process over again. But by law, they don't have to take a partial payment, but they do have to take your rent long as you pay within 3 days. So if you haven't paid your rent, get the rent in, or talk to your landlord, manager, owner about the rent. Okay. So that's life, and that was some leases in there too. So let me kind of look at my notes. I was just kind of going on a little tangent and everything like that. But I talked about the upcoming properties that I have, either I have or I have coming. Oh, and if you're an owner or you know a housing provider or a landlord, they got vacancy, they need help, that's what I do. I don't do property management, even though I have 25 years of property management skill. The part that I do in that is the leasing. So the part that I don't do is I don't collect rent. You don't call me when you're having an issue, a maintenance issue. You don't call me for that. All I do is I get a tenant in the unit, and then that's all I do. But I do a lot with that. I do the advertising, I do the marketing, I do the credit screening, I do the lease, and then I do the final walkthrough. So it's a lot of work. And then I'm communicating with people all along the way. So if you're looking for a rental, go to my Instagram page, Bay Area Rental Match, Bay Area Rental Match on Instagram, and my page will be there. Because I'm getting new listings regularly. I'm also getting ready to hire me a virtual assistant, because I just need some help with the admin, because 6 to 9 units a month, it could be, it gets a little busy. Okay, so tonight what I want to talk about is what happens after you get the rent increase. So I talked about in California, the rent could be raised starting August 1st in most cities. And I'm mostly talking about Northern California, specifically Alameda County and Contra Costa counties. But if you want to know how much the rent increase is in other counties, I can find that out. But that's what I mostly do, because I'm a Bay Area girl. So I talked about the rent increase amount. There are some exceptions to that. So I'm not an attorney. This is just educational advice. I'm not an attorney. So tonight we're going to what happens when you get a rent increase, and can you deny a rent increase, or can you negotiate a rent increase, right? So let's talk about it. Have anybody ever got a rent increase? Let me know in the comments, right? Have you ever even had a rent increase? So let's talk about the rent increases. So can you refuse a rent increase? No, you can't. You can't refuse it, but it doesn't automatically. It doesn't. If you complain about it, it doesn't automatically stop it from happening, or for it taking effect. But there's certain ways that the rent increase has to be done. They have to give you, if the rent increase is less than 10%, and the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index in California, most of the cities is going by a 5%, 5% plus the CPI is 3.8. So right now, for the next year, from August 1st to July 27, rent could be increased 8.8% in most cities that does not have rent control or rent stabilization. So cities that have rent control is like Oakland, Berkeley, Hayward has rent stabilization of 5% cap. San Leandro starting in January, their rent increase cap is 3%. San Francisco, so San Jose have some form of it. So those are the different cities. Oh, I said I did Alameda and Contra Costa, huh? So on the Contra Costa side, Antioch, Concord, and Richmond are most of our rent control cities. So they have special, and Alameda, I just thought about that. So they have special caps. So their rent increase is lower than the 8.8%. So if you get a rent increase that's 10, 12, 15%, I would have to know the circumstances, because there are some exceptions. Newer properties, less than 15 years old, they don't have any control. They don't have a rent control, or no one overseeing their rent increases, pretty much. That's how sometimes people get, like, you hear someone got a $700 rent increase or a $500 rent increase, like a month. It's like, what? Like, I don't know. My raise is usually not, when I was working and when I'm working, it's usually not like a $500 a month increase. So to get that increase is a lot. But anyway, I'm getting a little off. So can you refuse an increase? Long as they served it properly, you can't really refuse it. However, you can negotiate. Like if it's really going to be a financial burden on you, if it was a high dollar amount, maybe you're in between jobs, maybe you're on a fixed income, it doesn't hurt to ask the manager or the landlord. I wouldn't text. I would try to meet with them or send them in an email, or mostly try to meet with them, because, facing someone face to face and telling them what you're going through, this isn't the time to be like humble or what's the other word? The prideful. This isn't the time for that, because you want to know, hey, can you, instead of giving me that 8% increase, can you do 3 or 4% this year or something like that? So, sometimes landlords or owners isn't being unreasonable, and they'll work with you. And then sometimes it's kind of hard, because real estate, I feel like, and it might be other places, other careers, where you're regulated. So in real estate, they tell us, oh, you got to put a cap on how much you charge for rent. You have to, but there's no cap on the water company or the PG&E. They get to raise their rates. The garbage company, every year they raise their rates. And we, as an owner, and and I'm saying we because when I'm a property manager too, I represent owners. They get a lot expensive. The insurance in California is ridiculous. A lot of properties insurance is being canceled because the insurance commissioner, they don't want to insure in California. So they have to have insurance, but then sometimes it's hard to get insurance because it's getting canceled. So why it seems like your rent increase and you're already thinking rent is hecka high and why I got to pay this rent increase and you're feeling that it's already high. It's also because the owner also has expenses too that they can't dispute. They can't go to the water company and be like, can you only give me a 1% increase instead of a 3%? And they're not regulated. So the real estate, we're regulated, right, on how much we could do our increases. And, no, we don't want to see no one, losing being unhoused or losing their houses. And that's what I think I want to talk about next week is, I feel it. Rent is crazy. It's high. Rent is high, right? It's expensive to live in California. I was watching this TikTok person and I didn't catch his name because I didn't think I would be talking about it, but it was so true. He said, I choose my poor. And he was like, I think he was in LA. I like being in LA. I like the vibe, the city, everything with it. So I choose my poor. So he said, when somebody else, they may be, they may live out of state or in the countryside where the rents may not be that high, but they also don't have all the city life and everything. So, we're choosing our poor sometimes in California. And not all of us is choosing poor. Some people is doing quite well, even with the high rents and the high mortgages and things like that. So can a landlord raise rent during a lease? So if you're in a 12-month lease, you can't get a rent increase. So, if you're in a lease, now if you're month to month, if your lease is about to end, that's normally when you get your rent increase when your lease is about to end. But they can't raise your rent while you're in a 12-month lease, a 6-month lease, even a 3-month lease. They have to wait until that lease has expired before they could raise the rent. We already talked about negotiating rent. What happens if a tenant doesn't pay the rent increase? Yeah, this is kind of big. So you got a rent increase, you got the proper notice and everything, and you decide the month the rent increase is supposed to start. You decide, I'm not going to pay that. I'm going to continue paying what I pay. So there's a couple of things that could happen. I don't recommend this, but a couple of things can happen. If you get a rent increase and you don't pay, sometimes an owner will look at that as a partial payment because you didn't pay everything that you owe. So if for that partial payment, he may or she may return the payment back to you, let you know, hey, you need to pay the full amount of your rent. We don't accept partial payments. And if they don't accept your payment, then they could give you a 3-day notice. If you don't pay within those 3 days, like I just talked about, like if that happened this month, you got to the 12th to get that money in there. And if you decide not to do it, they could start an unlawful detainer on you or start the eviction process. That's extreme. Some owners may take the partial payment that you gave and then serve you a 3-day notice. Hey, thank you for the $1,000 you gave me, but your rent is now $1,100, so I'm going to need that other $100. So they may take the payment, then give you a 3-day notice to collect the other $100. And legally, that's within their right because they did give you the rent increase. You don't have to agree to it, longest the rent increase was in the California law limits, right? So most California 8.8%, but those special cities that has rent control, theirs is lower. Oakland 2.3%, Alameda, I don't have my notes, I think 1.7, Berkeley 1%, Richmond it's like 1.72. It's like this oddball amount. Hayward rent stabilization 5% cap. Like I said, San Leandro 3%. So if they're doing a rent increase higher than that, there are some exceptions to that. But if you're having that situation, you can send me a DM. I would have to know all the situations to let you know if that's right or not. Keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going by education and things that I've learned over my 25 years doing property management, 7 years as a realtor. So, how much notice is required when you're getting a rent increase? So it depends on the rent increase. So usually if it's under 10%, they only have to give you a 30-day notice. If it's 10% or higher, they have to give you at least a 60-day notice. A 60-day. It's either 60 or 90 days. I don't ever do rent increases over 10%. But it's either 60 or 90 days that you have to get for that. The building I manage, our owners actually have put a cap on how much rent increase we could do. Our cap, it was lower, way lower than what California allows us to do. But we give our residents a 90-day notice. We let them, because I don't know, for me, everybody don't live on 30 days, right? So, or a 24-hour notice. Don't come with me giving me a 24-hour notice that you need to enter my unit. I like a little bit more notice, Right now I'm in the midst of spring cleaning. So now I got to clean this mess up so you can enter. And someone actually entered my unit today, and they're supposed to be cleaning this mess up so you can enter. And someone actually entered my unit today, and they're supposed to be coming. But anyway, getting off topic here. So you need at least a 30-day notice that you got a rent increase. If they give you more, I think that's always nicer, so you're aware, so you can start budgeting that higher amount in there. So if you're a housing provider, landlord, and you're doing rent increases, give the people a little bit of notice. And you may even decide you want to leave. We get a lot of people that decide they want to leave just because they got that rent increase, or they want to find something lower. And that's just part of the job. That's just kind of what happens. Right now the new thing is the pad split, or the co-living, where you rent a room and then you may have your own bathroom, you may share the bathroom, you share common areas. That's kind of what people are doing now to kind of save money. But even those rooms be like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 and more. But for some people, that's more affordable than paying $16,000, $18,000, $2,000 for a one bedroom or whatnot. So I told you I got 2 and 3 bedrooms. If you got some roommates and you need a place in Oakland, hit me up. All right, can a landlord raise your rent every year? Yes, they can. They can. That's their right to raise it up every year. Some cities also have what's called bank increase or a capital improvement increase. So a bank increase is if they haven't raised your rent in 2 years or 3 years, the city will allow them to do what's a bank increase, and they will allow them to raise your rent for those 2 or 3 years that they didn't raise it. So instead of, if you're in Oakland, instead of a 2.3% increase, it may go up to like a 6% increase. They have like this calculator of how they figure out how much you could do, and it's really based on what the rent increase amount was that year, and they take all those into consideration. They divide it, and they do this average of how much they could raise it up. So if you like, well, Tanya, I'm in Oakland, you said the rent increase is only 2.3, but my owner gave me a 6% increase. They could have been doing a bank increase or what's called a capital improvement increase. And a capital improvement increase is if they did some major work, maybe they got the roof done, or maybe they had to redo a common area, but it's like the walkway area where everybody goes, or even sometimes maybe electrical upgrade. What's called knob and tube wiring was back in the day. So now they want you to update. The electrical insurance company wants you to update that, get rid of the knob and tube wiring. And if they do that, some cities will allow the owners to do a capital improvement increase where some of that increase is passed on to you to pay for that improvement they did, especially if it's benefiting you. So those are different type of increases that you can get. So if you ever gotten one of those increases, put it in the comments and let me know. But yes, they are allowed to raise it every year as long as they're following the state of California guidelines. They have the Tenant Protection Act that's in play that they have to go by too before they just raise it. What if the property is exempt from AB 1482? So about 10 years ago, AB 1482 was kind of like the rent control, if you want to say that per se. It was a Tenant Protection Act that was put in place that capped how much they could raise the rents for. And that's how we're getting like this AB 14. I mean, that's how we're getting like the 8.8%. It's because of AB 1482. That is set to expire this year. So I thought the new city limits or the new guidelines was going to be coming out by now, but it's supposed to come out this year. And I'm not sure of everything, but one thing they were thinking about doing on that is putting a cap for single family homes. So, because right now single family homes isn't under the AB 1482 protection. So that means a single family home, they could raise the rent as much as they want. They don't have that cap. Well, most single family homes. There are some exceptions. Everything has an exception. If it's a single family home, but they're renting out rooms in the house, then it's not under AB 1482, and it's not exempt. That's what I'm trying to say. But if it's a single family home and just a home, they don't really have a rent cap. And it's always so complicated because they would have had to notify the tenant usually at least time that they are not under AB 1482. So you have to have you had to receive some documents before the owner could just raise your rent. You know, all this starts getting really complicated, and what you can do, what you can't do, when you could do it, when you can't do it. So it's like, how do you keep up with all of this, right? You know, back in the day, because I've been doing this for a while, it was just the state of California law. Everybody in California followed that law. Whatever they said went. It was like, okay, that's all we could do. And then all the cities, they started coming in, well, my city's special. I have this. I should be able to do this. I need to have higher rent control, or I have a homeless problem. So I want to put a cap on how much the rent increase is, because we don't want more people to be homeless. So all the cities started coming in with all these things, and that's why now it's like, okay, what city you in? When people call and have questions, okay, what city you in? Are you, how is it composed? Are you an LLC? Is it a trust? Is it, you have to know all these things in order to try to give somewhat of a correct answer. But anyway. So if your property is exempt from AB 1482, then it isn't subject to the rent increase laws. So, but it's still exceptions with that. So can a rent increase notice be mailed? So the owner, they want to give you an increase. So the answer is maybe. It maybe can be mailed. So normally we have 3 ways that we could send a notice to you. One way is coming to your door, knocking on your door. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I just want to serve you this notice that you got a rent increase. Okay. Or they could come knock on your door. Hey, Mrs. Jones, 18-year-old person in the house. Here, I'm serving you this notice. And then the third way, if no one is home, you post it on the door and then you mail it. But now, most of the new leases in California said this is okay. If in your lease or on an addendum or something, you give permission to email, they could email you that notice as well. I tend to, because I live in the area, so I manage a building. So I don't do this for owners, because that's the property management side. For the building I manage, I just post it to their door and then mail it. And then if I'm going to email it, I may do an email, or if I'm going to, or I may even send out a text message. Hey, just want to let you know that I sent that. I put a rent increase on your door. And then I have to do reminders, because we give our people 90 days. So I barely can remember what I did yesterday. Me remembering a rent increase notice from 90 days ago, I'm probably not going to remember. So I usually do it the first month. The second month, I may post it again, remind them about it. But that third month, I'm like, okay, I need your decision now. But I try to give them heads up, because we do ours in 90 days. Do local rent control rules override state law? So can Oakland override state? No. But what Oakland can do, and I'm not just, when I say Oakland, I mean rent control cities. I'm just using Oakland as an example. But so Oakland can't override the state. So they can't be, the state is saying 8.8% increase. Well, we special, so we go do a 10% increase. No city could override state. But a city could be like, okay, 8.8, that's a little lot here, because, we want, like I said, Oakland has a homeless problem. And San Jose have homeless problem. San Francisco, just some cities I'm thinking offhand, they all have lower rents. They like a lower rent increase. So Oakland is like, okay, we're not doing 8.8, but we gotta do 2.3. Now I don't know how they get they totals, because last year was just 0.8, and it hadn't been that low in like 15 years. So then this year they went back up to 2.3%. But even a 2.3% on what If your rent is what, $1,000, so 2.3% is what, $12, or, $20, something like that. So it's not a lot. I mean, I know that the garbage, the water, the repairs, everything else is going sky high, more than that rent increase amount. But so if you're in a rent-controlled city, and if you don't know if you're in a rent-controlled city, I can let you know if you're in a rent-controlled city or not. That way you can know. Because sometimes, and my owners, talk to me, because sometimes they don't know, so they do stuff. One owner, he was, every year he would give his people a 10% increase. And he was in Oakland. It was like, you can't do that. You can't just... And I mean, he didn't have no exemptions. There was no exemptions for him to be able to do that. So he got fined, and he had to give people money back because he was, in a way, illegally giving out a rent increase. And it was just that it wasn't that he was trying to be hard or brutal or mean. He just didn't know. Like, oh, I didn't know that. And unfortunately, your ignorance kind of costs you for you not knowing. So when you're in a business and that sort of stuff, you need to know something about that business you're doing and the laws, because it could affect you. And I know that could be a little bit hard, because it's hard trying to remember everything, right? So let's talk about what's some of the biggest mistakes that I see landlords make with rent increases. So the biggest mistake is assuming that the same rules apply to every property. So if they have a fourplex, a fiveplex, a single family home, unfortunately, there's going to be different rules for each one of those properties that you have. So knowing that is going to save you. So whether the property is covered by state law or by local law, you need to know that. And that example that I gave where the guy was just giving a 10% increases every year, he didn't realize and understand that there was a local law. And really the 10%, that's higher than the state law. Because right now the state law is 8.8%. Last year it was 6.3%. So it changes every year. They're not using the correct notice. So the rent increase, there's a notice that you use. It has to have certain lingo on it, certain language on it, and sometimes they use the wrong one. They're not serving it correctly. They text it to you, maybe email, but you didn't authorize to receive want to receive notices for emails that wasn't put in your lease. Also, keep a copy of your lease. If you want to, I'm thinking, I can't find my birth certificate. So I was going to say, if you're one of those people that sometimes documents get lost, and I'm old, so the birth certificate has been around for a long time, but scan it, scan it, put it in a file somewhere so you can have it when you need it, because when things happen, you want to be able to refer to your lease. Because that's your power, right? That wasn't in the lease and that sort of stuff. So they're calculating the increase incorrectly. They're calculating the increase incorrectly. That's a tongue tie for me. So 2.3%. So I still use a calculator. Y'all remember calculators? I love that they have it on your phone. I use mine often. But $1,000, you get a 2.3% increase. That wasn't a good example. Let's do another one. That's only $23. So let me do $1,050, a 2.3% increase. That's $24.15. So they can't if that 15 was like 55, they couldn't be, oh, I'm just going to raise it $25. No, you went over the amount. You went over the 2.3%. You have to do the 24. You can't raise it. You can't round up. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't round up. You can round down, but not up. So, because that would mean that you now calculated the increase incorrectly. And yes, you could probably get some money back if that has happened to you. They're not keeping proper documentation. So, well, I guess this could happen if they did a rent increase, but they forgot how much your rent is. Maybe you've been paying partial payment, whatever. So then they try to do another rent increase, but they do it off a wrong amount or something like that. Those are big mistakes. So they could be losing money or gaining money. And sometimes, what are some other things? Sometimes it's just a big mistake. Not taking a rent increase. Because what happens is, I know sometimes we think, well, they ain't came and did nothing new in my apartment. When I first started where I'm working at, I've been here 14 years. When I started, our rent was $900 for a one bedroom, a 600 square feet one bedroom. Right now, 14 years later, a one bedroom is $17.95 or $18.95 if it's one of our remodels. But what did we do in that time? We updated the paint. We might have changed the flooring. We probably got new appliances over the years. And then our remodels, we kind of completely gutted out the kitchen, reconfigured the whole kitchen, put better quality appliances in there. So those are things. But it's hard to do those things when I'm trying to think. So I told you, so the market rent right now for a one bedroom in the San Leandro area, and we're on the lower side, like $17.95. Some people are higher. Some people's already in the 2000s for a one bedroom. But if those the rents, and then I get someone that's been here 10, 15 years, and they only paying $1,500. And then you want us to come in there and change your carpet or come and paint or things like that, and you're still there. It's a little bit harder to do while you're living there because the return on the investment is going to take a long time for us to recoup. Which you only paying $1,500 a month, it's going to take a long time to recoup that $2,500 paint job. Appliances is darn near $1,000 right now. A refrigerator is like $900. And so to recoup that when someone's already staying in there, that's why a lot of times owners don't want to go in there to, okay, we're going to come and update your carpet. We're going to paint your whole unit. We're going to give you all this stuff. Long as it's not a habitability issue. Those are different. Your toilet went out. You only got one toilet. Well, they got to fix it, right? So we just had to replace someone's toilet. I feel like water was running. They left the water running in the unit. And it affected my lobby because the water had been running for a long time. And I woke up and the the ceiling had collapsed. The ceiling had collapsed. We didn't plan that. We didn't understand it. And not only did the ceiling collapse, the water started coming in my office because I'm right next to the lobby. And that caused them having to open up part of the ceiling and the walls in my office and the ceiling in the lobby. So those are things that we didn't plan for, didn't know. But I don't know if you guys, can y'all see that? So that's the wall. That light is literally hanging, right? It's hanging, and that's the floor. So the things that happen. So did we charge the person who left the water running? No. But this is where renter's insurance comes. So if they did leave the water running, they did that damage, we could have charged that to them. I believe that cost me, I forgot the amount of the bill, but it was probably $8,000 to $14,000 for them to do everything. And those are expenses that landlords face. And that's what, as I was going on renter's insurance, that's why renter's insurance is kind of important that you have. Renter's insurance is less than $200 a year. If you need it, renter's insurance, let me know. I could send you a link to get it. But it's important to have if anything happens in your apartment. It's worth the investment. But if they say we did charge them for that, who got... Most people don't have $8,000, $14,000 just sitting around to pay that. Then we have to get them on payment plans and all of that sort of stuff. But if they had renter's insurance, they could have went through renter insurance and it would have covered it and paid. Is what I'm trying to say. So, I think we kind of talked about that. Should owners raise the rent every year? And not necessarily, it just really depends. Like sometimes we don't do rent increases, depending on the market. I had someone that came in a year ago paying $16.95. Well, we didn't raise their rent this year. We still kept them at $16.95 or whatnot. So sometimes people don't get rent increases. Sometimes they do. So that's kind of all my notes that I had. So let me know, does anybody have any questions? Sometimes I get people that DM me things that they're going through about their 3-day notices or eviction and that sort of stuff. And I'll do my best to either help you, guide you, send you to a resource. So if you are having some difficulties or some issues, let me know and I'll do my best to guide you. Like I said, I'm not an attorney or anything like that. I don't give out legal advice, but I do try. I know a lot. I have a lot of resources. I know a lot just from doing it over the years. I'm very familiar with the eviction process. Unfortunately, I've been to court, not even court. Well, I've been down to the courthouse, but I've never been to court. I've never had a trial. I've never been to trial. Because in Alameda County, they try to prevent that. So they make you sit in the hallway and both sides try to negotiate. They call it settlement court. So I've been to a lot of settlement courts, but I've never been to trial. And my attorney, he tried to convince us not to go to trial because he says, I charge $5,000 a day. And he said, and most people don't pay I just told you my rent is like $17.95. So if I'm going to a trial at $5,000 a day, I'm never going to recoup that money. So we try to settle out of court. Which brings me to one thing. If you do get an unlawful detainer and you get a notice, you have to respond to that notice within 10 days. Do the 10 days. Even if you're at fault, take the 10 days. It's going to buy you some time. And you got to be able to get to settlement court. And you got to be able to negotiate. Sometimes negotiation could go in your favor. Sometimes not. But do it anyway. Right? So I'm kind of done. If no one doesn't have any questions, I want to thank everyone for listening in and dropping in for Life, Leases, and Law. And next week, we're going to talk about this high California rent. And let's talk about it. I just want to, I feel the pain too. So let's talk about that. And let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want me to cover or talk about. And let me just do a recap for the evening. So if you're in the Bay Area, specifically East Oakland or the East Bay, I am doing a school supply giveaway, backpack school supply giveaway on Saturday, August 8th from 4 to 5:30 p.m. We're going to be at Carter Gilmore Park, 1324 66th Avenue in East Oakland, down the street from Acts for Gospel, across the street from Lockwood Gardens. Carter Gilmore used to be Greenman Field. Oh, and we're also down the street. I don't know if that school's still called Havens Court, but we're right next to, it used to be called Havens Court, the middle school. But that's where we're going to be on Saturday from 4 to 5:30. If you want to volunteer, if you want to come and help, let me know. I am seeking volunteers. But it should still be a lot of fun, even though we're not doing it all big like we normally do. So the name of my organization is Our Youth Matter. And I've been doing this is going to be our 19th. And I call it the Back to School Bash, our 19th. So we've been doing this for 19 years. Like my babies, they grown. And really, literally, one of my babies, he's starting his senior year. So yeah, so if you have any questions, you can always DM me. You can make comments on the video. And then I'm going to be posting little clips throughout the week. If someone missed something. Oh, I put this whole video on YouTube under Real Estate by Itonya. That's my brand name. I am a realtor, so I do the sales side. So I can help people sell their investment properties or their home. And I also can help buyers purchase that. I do that as well, but right now I'm focusing on the rental side of the real estate, which is where the tenant placement comes in, and that is called Bay Area Rental Match. So I try to connect renters and owners and try to find the perfect match. So thank you for tuning in tonight. That's all I got for you. Let me just scroll, make sure I don't see any questions. Thank you for everybody that came in and joined. Okay, I see AI summarized what I just said on some of the stuff. Hey, go AI. All right, thank you. It's telling me my live will end at 4 in 5 minutes. Okay. I think I put a timer on that. Okay. Drag the puzzle piece. What is this? It want me to drag the puzzle piece. I'm not sure what they're trying to verify. Drag the puzzle piece. Am I getting some awards or some points or something? Okay, I don't know what that was about. Maybe because I touched my screen. It's going to end in 5 minutes, but I'm just going to end it right now. So send me a message. Oh, it looked like I got a message. I don't see that. Looks like the AI summary. But yeah, I'm here for you. I'll be back next week. I'm making a commitment every Thursday, 7:30. All right.